Hello, this is Dale with Gecko University. Welcome back to another module, and this time we are going to talk about one of my very favorites, the door measurement sheet. I think if there's a portion of what we do, we're a garage door company, and it seems like people I talk to, it's the most frustrating part, and it doesn't have to be. So there's a lot of text that goes along with this with some highlights that Stephen has prepared. I'm not going to talk about those, they're pretty self-evident. I want to talk about two things, the overall picture of why we do this, and then also each individual part of it. So I don't know what market you're in or how large the company is you're with. Eventually, hopefully, you'll get to where you've got some installers. Some people have told me, Dale, a technician is the hardest thing to find. Others have said a good installer is the hardest thing to find. And both have merit, but it doesn't matter. We're all a team. And I liken it to this. If you've been on a long trip somewhere, say you're going from Omaha to Boise and you're taking shifts, and you pull over somewhere and it's foggy, and it's someone else's turn to drive, and they get up and it's all of a sudden it's snowing. They have no idea what rest stop they're at, what mile marker, which way to go. Total vertigo. And that's how I think it is for an installer when he shows up. He has no idea. He's never been there. He trusts you. And it doesn't matter all the company bonuses you would give that gentleman, or the Christmas cards. It's not going to make up for sending him out somewhere to fail. You just can't do it to a teammate. This has to be done. It has to be done correctly to the best of our ability. And the best way to do that is to understand each section, what it means to the ordering process, to make sure it goes well for the customer, the company doesn't lose money and gain more dead stock, and also so our installer can go out there with confidence and install the door properly, safely for the customer as it was designed to be. So anyway, door width, let's make sure we all know where the top and bottom. So jambs are not all created equal. Maybe they were when they started, but when we show up, especially for a remodel, houses have settled, things move. So get the width at the top of the jamb as best you can. A laser measure works great if you have access to that instead of dealing with the tape, and a tape on the bottom. And we're measuring the actual jamb, not trim to trim, wood trim if it's a wood door or whatever. We want to measure the actual jamb. Door height, same thing. We want to measure the left, the center, and the right from the inside of the garage looking out. Inside jamb, left and right, how much room is there? We'll need at least 3.5 inches typically for jamb brackets on the doors that we install. And if we're going to not reversing them, which some people do in a pinch, but again, that would need to be noted up front also. Track type needed. And I'm assuming everyone has some type of door fitment guide or legend they go off of so they know what track will fit in which situation. But without all these other parameters, you can't know which track to use. So again, it's very, very important to mark all of this accurately with a good tape measure. Own two. If you lose one, you still got another one. This is a very important part of your job. So header, the actual header above, on top of the jamb, up to the roof or wherever our work area ends. It could be just a stud going across on a truss. It could be a finished ceiling. Stem wall. So stem wall would be the concrete low wall that the walls rest on. Some call it a kicker. It's called different things in different areas. But basically, at the floor, as far as you can go to the left and to the right. Typically, stem walls on a 16-foot door will be 16 foot 6 inches of gap. Sometimes they're less. Ideally, we need at least 1.5 inches, ideally at least 2 inches on each side for the installer. That'll give them a little room to make adjustments to the track and whatnot. So again, a very important measurement. Height of the ceiling at the door opening. Again, that's crucial. We've got a torsion system to put up there and perhaps an operator to put up there. So those need to be written down well, and then 5 feet back, that's important also. especially in lower doors. Even if the cement is rising, it depends what area of the country you're in perhaps. Here a lot of them tilt quite a bit, and 5 feet back we could be losing 3 or 4 inches. So in certain installations that can come into play, and it's good for the installer to be able to know that. And again, 10 feet back. So, and wall obstructions are obvious. We need to look at that for obvious reasons for the track, but also for safety. Put on there if he's got a bunch of gardening instruments with sharp hedges and whatnot. I have some horror stories I won't share here. But let the customer know also to take those down for our guys' safety. Your installer will appreciate it. Just let them know. Don't be shy. Say this is for the safety of our workers. And if something needs to be moved, let them know, or make a note on there. We need a second guy there. There's a 8-foot gun safe that's in the way. It has to be moved out of the way. 2 of us can do it, and we'll move it back when we're done. So that way we've set expectations for ourselves and the customers. Ceiling obstructions, we've all been there. Ceiling fans, light fixtures, let the customer know that whether or not we need to have them removed, but ask. A lot of times they don't work, or they're going to change them out anyhow, and then we can put standard track in instead of low headroom or 0 or whatever the case is. Is the garage cleared out? Boy. So that's huge. How many times, if you have installers, have they shown up and the garage is packed and there's like a 30-40 minute clean out time and then the same to go back in? This needs to be noted, and the customer needs obviously to understand the importance of this. We don't want to be moving other people's things and being blamed for something missing or something broken or misplaced or anything like that, put out in the rain. So this really needs to be noted. They can put it out the night before with tarp over it if there's going to be some poor weather or whatever the case is. But if you need a second guy, again, arrange it and get out there and get it done, and it's going to save your installers a lot of headache. Does the garage have high ceilings? Pretty important. So I don't know what part of the country, and a lot of homes here do have high ceilings. A lot of them have a 12-on-12 pitch or even a 10-on-12 pitch, and you get 10 feet back. You're putting an opener up where one has not been installed before. Well, all of a sudden you need a 10 or 12 foot ladder to do a 7-high door. So that's super, super important. Please make a note. Remove trim. So a lot of them will have obviously wood trim or vinyl trim. It's good for the installer to know. So many times I've seen it where we've removed it and we just took for granted that they wanted new trim. Well, they didn't. It's been painted, it's been caulked, and we're supposed to leave it on there. So again, don't throw your installer to the wolves. Make a note. Make sure the customer is aware. If you don't know, put on there to be determined with customer. Installer will discuss it with them, but don't assume anything, please. Is there an operator? Pretty self-explanatory. Put what type it is on there. Perhaps there's one there, but it's out of compliance. And I don't know what the protocol is with the company you're at, but is it one that maybe we can't operate because it's obsolete or out of date? But make notes. Again, don't put the installer in a position where he's got to mop up because of our negligence on the front end. New operator? If so, put a yes or no, and perhaps which one's on there so you can load his truck in the morning accordingly. Extra angle iron for operator. If he needs 2 inches more, you don't need to put that on there. But again, if it's a very tall ceiling, definitely put it on there. Yes. Being 4 8-foot sticks a punch or whatever the case is. Powered operator, that's very important. The extension cords, they should be for only temporary use and explained to the customer, so we don't lead them in the wrong direction for potential fire. And also so we can get the operator going. Make sure there's an extension cord there if there needs to be one. And if there is an outlet there, make sure it works correctly. Notes, very important. Again, you just can't do enough to make sure that your installer is successful. Let him know whatever else you might need. Some things that aren't on here that I would also encourage you to put in the notes or expand on this for your operation. Extra vinyl. So you're putting in a 16-foot door with a 16-foot and 1/2 inch open. What do you do? Well, you can add extra vinyl on each side. Explain it to the customer, but make a note so your installer knows to bring that out there. The apron, the concrete floor, is it level? So when you're measuring the height of this, make sure you're measuring at the tallest portion. So if it's 7 foot, 7'1", 7'2", you need to mark down it's 7 feet high. The other part, there's going to be a gap. We're going to install the door level, explain it to your customer, put on there what other materials you may or may not need to fill the gap, and that may or may not be important to the customer. It may be an outbuilding where it's always been that way, that the house is settled or settling more, and it's not even an issue to them. If there's any hours that the customer needs you there within, or if you need a second hand for the garage that needs clearing, or whatever the case is. So one thing that is not on here that I encourage you highly to do is pictures. So I don't know if you're, again, doing it manually or if you have a program. Pictures are so huge. The pictures I really encourage you to do, if you're not already, is a large picture of the outside of the entire garage door. It's going to show if there's dog ears, if it's a rectangular jamb, if it's an arch, and that will dictate whatever kind of vinyl you might need to move out. It'll also show any gap at the bottom in case you had a typo or didn't complete some other portion of it correctly. It's just a great visual double check so the installer can match up the measurements with the picture. It'll also show any possible previous damage that was already there. And I've seen it before where a door was hit hard, went outside the jamb, left a lot of scarring, tore up wood, and they tried to blame it on our guys at the install, and they could come back to the picture and show, no ma'am, this was already here from the incident with the BMW, whatever the case is. So, and on the inside, again, very important, show all the bucking with pictures. If it's a one piece, get everything above the door in the header area, so we'll know you do any light framing. Very important. Again, you just can't take enough pictures. Use them. If you don't, and if it's tricky at all, email them to your installer. Show them you care. You'll make your world and everyone's world a little easier. So anyways, we can always expand on this more in other modules. I could talk for days on this. There's just so much information that we could discuss. So anyway, that's all I've got on this. I hope you enjoyed it and it helps you give a better product to your customer.